Good day, fish tankers. Let's not kid ourselves. In today's tough economic times, fish keeping can be an expensive hobby. Have you ever bought a product somewhere in the past? I don't know if you can hear this one. And then ask yourself, why did I ever buy this product? I know that's happened to me many times before, and I made a list of 12 products that I really should not have bought. If you want to save some money, then stick around. Coming in at number one, I would put these all-in-one kit tanks. Now, I've had one just like the one you see here for the only marine tank or seawater tank I've ever done, just a little bit smaller. And it worked very well with a back sump and all the equipment integrated. But there are drawbacks to these kit tanks, especially with the freshwater ones. You see this one next to me used to be a kit tank as well as the other second biggest one upstairs, and none of them have their original equipment in them anymore. I've replaced the hoods with LED lights, and also I don't like those trickle filters in the lids. They're very good filters, but with load shedding, power outages, they dry out and you lose your bacteria sometimes even. So that's not a good thing, and they are bulky as well, those lids. But having said all that, if you do want to buy a kit tank, I think it works out a little bit more expensive, but I've noticed when I was in the UK, that's basically what you've got. But the thing that went wrong with me on that kit tank with my seawater tank, everything was fine until the lights started blowing. They reached the end of a lifetime, and I just could not find any replacement light that fits in that hood. And I liked the look of a tank, and I even went so far as to buy a whole new kit tank like that. And I won't do it that way again. If you want to buy a kit tank, look in the lid, ask the sales assistant, and make sure that you can actually find replacement LED lights that will fit in that hood, so that you don't have to replace the entire tank or the entire hood. And that is something that I will check if I ever buy a kit tank again. But I would not advise going with a kit tank option. It's much better and more versatile than just put your own equipment together. Then at number two, filter cartridges. Firstly, I would say don't buy filters that use cartridges from a manufacturer unless it's for some specific reason, and unless you can take those cartridges and sort of DIY something else. Because filter cartridges, you obviously need to replace them. It's an ongoing expense. And then as well as that, you lose, if you only have filter cartridges in that filter and you take out all the filter cartridges, if it only has one, you lose all your beneficial bacteria and you can crash your cycle if it's the only filter you have. Some beginners do make that mistake. So filter cartridges for me is a no-no. If I do have a filter that use cartridges, I will use a piece of sponge that I'll cut to size, and I'll try and put it in place of a cartridge. But some of those filters don't work without their cartridges. The cartridges also handle or direct the water flow. So I'll stay away from filter cartridges. On that theme of filtration, another thing that I think has reached this day is activated carbon. We all used it in the past in those little box filters. Now, I would only use activated carbon these days if I have to remove medication from the water after a treatment. It's great for that. But for the rest, if you want chemical filtration for that really crystal clear water, you'll need good mechanical filtration as well. But if you want chemical filtration, you want that pristine look, there are better products on the market like Seachem Purigen and Dymax. And I'm not sure about Dymax, but the Purigen you can even recharge. So I wouldn't do activated carbon. At number four, we're talking about these guys, and I'm talking about battery operated. By that I mean your ordinary torch batteries that you just throw away, or DC chargeable air pumps that can be recharged but is not connected to the mains. The reason why I say so is they work well enough, but this one here, as you've heard in the intro, is noisy as heck. It belongs on a boat out in the stormy sea, keeping bait alive. And then the DC rechargeable air pumps that I've got, they're pretty good, nice when you're traveling, but you have to recharge them every time they run flat. And nowadays the AC/DC air pumps are ones that just connect to the mains power, and when the power goes out, carries on working, and when the power gets back on, it just seamlessly carries on and charges itself. They've become cheaper, so it's worthwhile to just pay that little bit extra and get an AC/DC air pump. instead of something that's noisy and operates with torch batteries, or something that doesn't connect to the mains but you have to recharge every time you've used it. The other thing at number 5 is fluorescent lights. Now, it's going out of fashion, it's old technology, and in those kit tanks that I had fluorescent tubes, and I kept replacing them, and eventually the lid blew a fuse and I replaced it all with LEDs, and I couldn't understand why didn't I just do this earlier. The fluorescent tubes are much bulkier, often they use more power, not always with very high-end LED lights, and the LED lights are usually also cooler than the fluorescent lights, and it doesn't have that big ballast. So if you're still running fluorescent tubes, don't buy replacements anymore, just replace it with LED lights. And coming in at number 6, I would ditch these glass with a mercury inside old style thermometers. They're not accurate. You can take 3 of them and you can put them in the same tank and they'll give you 3 different readings, and they're easy to break, and then you've got that mess in the tank, and the mercury can be poisonous as well. I would rather use the new electronic thermometers, the ones that's inside the aquarium. They're okay, I've used them before, but I have found that over time many of them start springing a leak. The ones that I prefer are the thermometers that sit outside the tank, like this Sun with a probe hanging inside the aquarium, and this particular one can even give you a reading in Fahrenheit as well as Celsius, so it's quite versatile. I like those that hang on the outside of a tank with a probe inside. If I can only now make the probe black, then we can hide it much better. Okay guys, coming in at number 7, another little item that I wouldn't spend money on. We all used to do it in the past with all different kinds of scenery, and that's photo backgrounds for the back of your tank. I would just paint it black. That's my favorite because it hides equipment, or paint it blue if you want, because I like the black because I like the algae to grow on the back pane of a tank, and it hides the algae and it hides the equipment. But any color is okay, because the thing with those photo backgrounds of that scenery of plants or even the castles, if you want to see, you're going to have to clean that back glass constantly. And the other thing about it is you're not going to see it anyway, because you're going to have a hardscape and the plants in front of it. So photo backgrounds I wouldn't do again. Then the other thing is preset heaters. I'm talking about these little heaters that set at a set temperature, usually 25 degrees Celsius. I can see the allure of these heaters because they're small, they're compact, they're great for nano tanks. But what are you going to do if you want the temperature a little cooler, or maybe you have an ick in the station, you want to raise the temperature? Then you can't. And the other thing that would worry me, very few heaters, I'm not saying that these can't, but very few heaters keep the temperature to the thermostat settings. Typically you'll set it at 25, you'll check it with a thermometer, and maybe it's 24 and you have to raise it to 26 to get the temperature to 25. And if that's the case, if that happens with these preset heaters, what are you going to do? So if I want something compact and a small nano tank, I'll rather get one of these heaters that you see on your screen. They're just as compact because the thermostat sits outside on the plug, and you just have this element in the probe, and it's just as compact as the preset heaters. So that's what I would rather go for. Then the next thing is plastic airline valves. Now, sometimes buying the more expensive option is going to work out cheaper in the long run. With the plastic valves, you've got to have splitters, and you've got to have these little taps that control the airflow. But with the stainless steel valves, you have a splitter and the control valve all integrated in one, and it just works a lot better for me. This one is going to be a bit controversial, because some people swear by it and some people claim it's just a marketing gimmick and it doesn't work at all. And this comes in at number 10, and that's bacteria in a bottle. There's a wide range of products, and I got to be honest, I didn't buy them. I actually never used it in my entire fish keeping hobby career, so to speak. But here is why. For me, it's just much easier because I have multiple tanks to take a seeded filter. There's always an extra filter running in the tank, and just put it in the new tank along with another filter and replace it in the old tank. And that way I keep having an instant cycle. I don't have to worry because I just carry the nitrifying bacteria from an old tank. You can also use old media and put it in your new hang-on back or canister filter, whatever you have, and you have an instant cycle. And if I didn't have any tanks, rare occasions that happened, Then I simply set everything up. I chucked a pinch of flake food in the tank. I waited for 3 to 4 weeks. When I see the ammonia and the nitrite is zero, I start slowly adding fish. Now, you guys must let me know in the comment section. Please leave a comment there and tell me what your experience was of these products. It always makes a big fight. To me, I never needed them. There has been a study on Aquarium Science website. I'm going to leave a link down in the description of this video. But tested it, and some worked a little bit, or worked somewhat, and others didn't work at all. And then some test soil that they put in the tank inoculated the tank better. And then there are other people that I know in the hobby that are very knowledgeable and more experienced than me, that I respect, that swear by things like microbe live night out and all that to instantly cycle a tank. I've never used it. I don't think they are strictly necessary. If they do work, they can be handy. My guess would be that some work better than others, like all aquarium products. But there are those that claim they don't work at all, and there's those that swear by them. So you've got to tell me in the comment section, what have your experience been with bacteria in a bottle? I've never used it. I don't think I will ever. I might if you guys want. Let me know in the comment section. I'll do an experiment with it to see what my findings are. But also the Aquarium Science, that is not a full double-blind scientific test. And they haven't tested all the products on the market, just some of them. But that's the thing. Bacteria in a bottle can also get expensive, because if you look on the dosages, especially when running a new tank, you use a substantial dosage over a period of time, usually 7 to 10 days. So it is can get a bit of an expensive thing. They also say that you must add it after every water change or every time you wash the filter. I have never needed to do that, so I think that is just unnecessary. But there are shops, especially with the load shedding, with power outages, that did. So it's up to you. But for me, bacteria in a bottle is not something I'm going to really spend my money on. Then this will be another controversial thing at number 11, and those are canister filters. Now, canister filters you get in many sizes. They're great in the sense that they can hold probably the most media of any form of filtration besides a sump under your tank, but they are expensive. Now, I'm not saying throw your canister filter in the trash. If you're keeping big South American or Central American cichlids, if you are keeping maybe fancy goldfish, or if you have a Malawi aquarium, African cichlids, so you have to overcrowd and you don't have a sump, by all means, I think you're going to need a canister filter. But you know, I see some hobbyists that do these 88 tanks and just a 60 litre, a 12 or 15 gallon or 20 gallon tank with small fish, and they put these huge firm RSA Biomaster filters on it. If your budget allows, and if you want it for the aesthetics because it's outside of a tank, and I understand the reasoning there, by all means get it. But you do not need a big canister filter if you are on a budget and you're just going to keep smaller to medium-sized community fish. My 75 gallon, there's a big angel in there, and there's some sort of juvenile clown loaches in there, and some Siamese algae eaters, so they are not tiny fish, and then an array of small fish. But there's a hang-on back and a air-driven sponge filter and an internal power filter in there, all using sponge, a bit of matrix in the hang-on back, and everything is fine. So if you're on a budget, don't blow it on a canister filter if you're just going to keep your run-of-the-mill community fish. Rather use that extra money that you save and buy a bigger tank. I think that would be money better spent. And then finally, at number 12, to complete the dirty dozen, here's another product that I really don't like, and that is holiday food. These weekend blocks, you don't need to feed your fish over the weekend. They're not dogs and cats. They'll be completely fine scrounging around whatever there is in the tank. And I especially don't like the bigger blocks that's supposed to be for 10 days or so, because I do think not all the food get eaten. I'm always worried that it doesn't release properly and you have an ammonia dump in your tank. So I would give holiday blocks and weekend blocks a miss. If you're going away on holiday, rather get yourself an automatic feeder. And I would recommend get the more expensive one. I used to have an EIM. I had baby fish growing up, and they had to be fed when I wasn't at home as well. And the EIM had a little fan that blew the moisture out of the food. And get the more expensive one that has that little fan in that blows the moisture out. Failing which, you can always use these little silica gel sachets that you get in medical supplies, in supplements and so on, and chuck that in the food bin. That'll also help to draw off moisture. Must just make sure that it cannot fall into the tank. So handle that with caution. And the other thing is, if you're going away for a long time, here's another trick that you can use. Simply allocate the food for each day. If you're going to have somebody else sitting or feeding your fish, allocate that food for each day, write a date on it, on an envelope, put it in the envelope, and then you have an envelope with each day's food, and that way the person looking after your house and your aquarium fish cannot overfeed the fish. Well, that's it from me, guys. If you found this advice useful, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button. I'll greatly appreciate it. And let me know, do you agree with me on these products or don't you? Or do you have some products that you will never buy or that you think are just a waste of money? Let me know, and please remember to subscribe. I will greatly appreciate that. And until we see each other again, remember to take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.